Let's bring in Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Westwood One NFL analyst, calling the Titans-Ravens game Saturday night, former NFL offensive lineman and host of Home and Home on radio.com app, and calling the Titans-Ravens game. Ross, thanks for joining us. Nobody's come up with a game plan this year to stop the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. What will the Titans do that will be different this weekend?
Dan, that is the question, and I'm sure Dean Pease and Mike Vrabel will try to come up with something. You know, it's weird because the Titans are the only team in the AFC playoffs that haven't already played the Ravens. Now, I personally think that that's a disadvantage because I think when you go against the Ravens, it's almost like going against Army or Navy or Air Force, right? In college football, your scout team just can't really replicate it very well. I know they had Mariota trying to do it this week. It's just not the same. The running backs, the linemen, they have a tough time replicating the mesh point and how they do everything. And so what happens is you get out there in the game, your scout team didn't do a great job, and now everything's so much faster than you thought it would be. Next thing you know, they go down, they score the first 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's happened almost every game they've played. It's the same way when you play the academies or the option teams. So I do think it's an advantage for the Ravens that, unlike the Texans or the Chiefs or the Patriots, this will be the first time the Titans are getting a look at it. The flip side, though, would be, you know, maybe they could come up with something different. But, Dan, people have tried everything.
Yeah.
I mean, they've tried to hit Lamar as much as they can. They've tried to take away the dive and let Lamar run. They've tried to take away Lamar, give him the – I mean, it's – if there was something new to be tried – I would think that everyone else would have been able to at least give it a shot over the last 14 weeks. My guess is they'll try to mix it up and confuse Lamar Jackson. Personally, I would take out Lamar on every play. That would be the focus. I'd take my chances with the running backs, you know, getting 5 to 7 yards up the middle.
But what is different this year as opposed to this Lamar Jackson and these Ravens last year when they bowed out against the Chargers?
It's a great question, and the answer is the offense has evolved and they've committed more to it, which, by the way, is unbelievable. Like, there are quotes, you know, prepping for the game, Dan, that in the Ravens media notes, they have a quote from John Harbaugh saying in May during OTAs, I think we're going to revolutionize the way football is played in the NFL. Yeah. I think we're going to change the game. I mean, if they go on to win the Super Bowl and they got a great chance to, that's like one of the all-time calling your shots. I mean, in May, to say we're going to change, and then they do it? I mean, he gave everybody fair warning. He told everybody this was coming, and now it is. So what they've done is they've built on – they only had a couple of run game concepts with Lamar Jackson last year. This year, they've built on that, and then the whole passing game is now based off of all of the run action stuff. I mean, when you have a guy like Eric Weddle, who's 35 years old, played forever, saying he didn't know where the ball was half the time when the Rams played the Ravens, that's a pretty good indicator of part of the reason why the Ravens are having so much success.
Give me the team that has the best chance of pulling off the upset.
Vikings. Absolutely Vikings. I don't understand this betting line for the second weekend in a row. I thought the Saints were giving them too many points. And I think the Saints are a better team right now than the 49ers. I mean, Dan, the Vikings have a top 8 quarterback in Kirk Cousins, top 5 running back Dalvin Cook, top 5 wide receiver duo Thielen and Diggs, top 5 DN duo Griffin and Daniil Hunter. Kendricks is an all-pro linebacker. They're battle-tested. They've played in a lot of playoff games the last couple of years. I don't get it. I mean, I still think the Niners maybe win like 24-23, but I love the Vikings with the points. I think it's a true toss-up game. The only real advantage, I think, for San Francisco is they're coming off a bye, and it's a short week for the Vikings, but especially after they went down there and whipped up on the Saints, those guys are feeling sky high right now. I mean, that was no fluke, Dan. They dominated the game. Frankly, if it wasn't for Taysom Hill, that might have been a blowout.
Would you rather have Kirk Cousins or Jimmy Garoppolo?
For this game or moving forward?
This game.
This game, I'll go Cousins. And now, listen, everybody say, oh, Jimmy G's first playoff game. Jimmy G's first. Listen to me. I mean, think about what Garoppolo did down there in New Orleans against the Saints, or the 2 3rd and 16s against the Rams in a game they had to have, or how he played against the Seahawks week 17. I mean, Garoppolo has come up big in a bunch of clutch situations recently and deserves a lot of credit for that. But I just think Cousins has kind of been there, done that, has a little bit more to prove. And I think he's got a better receiving core, and they're feeling it after they won. I'm telling you right now, Dan, the winner of that game is going to the Super Bowl. The winner of the Niners and the Vikings is going to the Super Bowl. Because if it's the Niners, then they're going to host either Green Bay or Seattle in the conference championship game, and I feel good about them winning that. If it's the Vikings, I don't care that they have to go on the road. Minnesota, after they would have won at the Superdome and at San Francisco, that would tell me that those guys are playing at a really high level. Either way, I think the winner of that game is going to the Super Bowl.
We're talking to Ross Tucker. He'll be on the broadcast for Westwood One, Titans and Ravens. That'll be Saturday night. The Cleveland Browns, looks like they're zeroing in on Josh McDaniels. If that's the case, what do you think?
I like it. I played for Josh in 05 and 06 in New England. He's extremely bright. And the aspects of it that I like from a Browns perspective are, number one, he's from there. So immediately that will ingratiate him with the fans, which I think is a positive. But from a strictly football standpoint, been a head coach before. Now, I would have loved Ron Rivera or Mike McCarthy in Cleveland because of their track record of success as head coaches and the idea that they could get Odell and Jarvis Landry and Baker Mayfield to fall in line with what they say. They've got kind of those strong personalities. But I do think McDaniels has enough cachet, having been in New England this long, all the Super Bowls, Tom Brady's coach, etc., that I do think he'll get those guys to listen, and they'll believe that he can put them in the best position to succeed. He also loved Baker Mayfield coming out, and I think he'll be able to say to Baker and show Baker some of the things that Tom did on and off the field to get Baker to be a little bit more Brady-esque.
As a man who once blocked for Tom Brady, or at least tried to block for Tom Brady, right?
Yeah.
Where do you think Brady is going to be next year?
I still think it's New England. I think when it comes down to it, I think Brady wants to be in New England. I think Robert Kraft definitely doesn't want him going anywhere else. The wild card to me is really Belichick. You know, it's been well documented that Belichick did not want to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. And I wonder if Belichick starts to push back on Kraft a little bit. I don't think Belichick would give him an ultimatum per se, but he might say, listen, you know, we did this once, but now we got to move on, Bob. Or does Belichick try to grind Brady on the contract? I think he probably will. And Dan, honestly, I think Tom's just sick of it. You know, I mean, they've grinded him on the contract so many times, even though he's been so unselfish in that regard. I think he's kind of annoyed with the way things have gone from a contract standpoint and from the personnel around him this year, the last couple of years. I think he wants to be back, but I think if they lowball him or give him flack about it, I think he's going to be like, you know what, forget it. I'm out of here.
I'm out of here, too, and so are you. Good luck. Have fun in Baltimore on Saturday night. The Titans, Ravens, Westwood One, and, of course, the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Great to talk to you again, bud.
And hey, congratulations on the Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Thank you, Ross. I appreciate that. That's Ross Tucker.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.